Overcoming circumstances through the abundance of grace. Overcoming circumstances through the abundance of righteousness. Leading a life.
You know, a lot of times, the majority of the people that I meet, and I do a lot of speaking, the majority of the people really do not know what they want to do with their life.
Right.
And
I've had people ask me the same question, or make the same statement.
Sure.
I don't know. What
Yeah.
am I supposed to do?
Right. And this was really driven by some of mine as well, but it's the same in a company. Like a company has a vision for the company. So how do they define out what that vision really is? Well, you've got to really do some searching and find out what's the company about, what's your product about, what kind of people you're trying to reach. And we have the same issues in our life, right?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's very essential that you find the passion, the fire, and that's what you're really about, what really excites you. Because I think one thing that you can learn is that when you find out what your passion is, you may not be in the profession, or you may not be doing a process that's really aligned with your passion.
Right.
And that's could be a reason why you're miserable as well.
So, can a person's passion be fulfilled outside of their occupation?
Oh, absolutely.
Or does it need to be their occupation?
Well, yes. I think when you're in alignment with, and I believe that God gives us those talents,
Right.
those passions, those dreams.
Right.
He gives them to you for a reason. He wants you to live them.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So if you're not living them, that could be one of the reasons why you're not miserable. And you could be miserable because you have a terrible boss, I don't know. That could be happening.
A lot of people have that
That's
challenge
right,
as well.
right.
Sure.
Right, but
Sure.
to say that I'm in the right vocation is, yes, to answer your question, yes. You could be in a vocation that you don't necessarily like, but you're very talented at it, right?
Right,
You could be
right.
very talented at it, and you could look for the good in that situation,
Right, sure.
and see how it marries up to your passion. But if you don't know what your passion is, you can never do that. So that's why it's so critical that you find out exactly what your fire is, the fire that you have, that's in your belly and your heart. Right?
That's awesome.
Right.
That's awesome. And, I think in our culture, specifically in our day and time, that most people, I would say maybe even up to 80% right now, never really recognize or reach, if they do know what they're called to do, what their passion is, reaching a capacity of fulfillment in that,
Right.
in our culture. When I preach a message about destiny somewhere, it's amazing. I mean, the altars are full.
Yeah.
Because people are saying, I know my life means something more. I just don't know what it means.
Yeah.
And I want to know. So passion is very, very important. Fire is very important. What are the other elements that
I'll go through the others. What I'll do, let me go through them real quick, and then we can talk about each one.
Okay, sure.
So we have the fire, which is the passion, and then the next one is the wind.
Right.
No, water. I'm sorry, it's water.
Water.
I
Okay.
forgot my own process. Is water, and water is all about trying to look at what you have, what talents that you have. Right. It's like a river, right? Or the ocean. If you think of the ocean, they have all these rivers and streams that flow into the ocean, right? So you have all this information around you that you're trying to assemble, and you find out what your passion is. Let's just say your passion is to be a basketball player, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you say, okay, that's really what I want to do. That's really what's on my heart. So you go through and you say, okay, what talents do I need to be a basketball player?
Mm-hmm.
Well, guys like you and I, not saying that you can't do that, but we're not necessarily tall enough to make that happen, right?
Yeah.
So you have to really do an assessment, really, and that's what the water is. You're trying to do assessments and sort through that and see really what you have. What's really key to that is that when you find out what you have, you can also look at, hey, what is it that I need to make that happen? And you may have to look for help.
Right.
For example,
Sure.
when I wrote the book,
Mm-hmm.
I'm certainly not a literary writer by any stretch of the means. And I don't know how to publish a book. I don't know anything about that stuff. So I had to find a publisher. I had to find a content editor to make sure that what I was spelling was right, my grammar, all that kind of stuff,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
So I had the passion, but just because you have a passion and you don't have all the things that you think you need, it doesn't mean that you can't do it. You're going to need help.
Right.
And that's one thing that you have to make a choice. When we talk about choices, you have to make a choice and say, hey, listen, I can't do all this, I need help.
Right.
Now, if you're gifted and you do have all that stuff, then
Sure.
go, man, that's awesome, right?
I think one of the quality beauties of how God created us is that we have a dream, but we can't really fulfill our dream by ourselves.
Mm.
We need other people
Yeah,
to help us do that. And I think that's what you're talking about. Is that accurate?
that's accurate, that is
Yeah.
accurate.
Yeah.
So after you find out what your passion is and you get it all lined out and saying, okay, I can do these things and I need help doing this stuff, then comes in the wind. And the wind is a representation of adversity. And this is probably one of my favorite ones because I've never met anybody that doesn't have adversity in their life. If there's some out there, please let me know. But the adversity thing is that we tend to always want to push it away or not recognize it. And what I found through the years, and we found also in doing the consulting for the companies, is that we want to embrace this, right?
Right,
We want to
sure.
embrace adversity because
Right.
it's what adversity is when you grow, right?
Yes.
It's what you take that and you transform it and it turns into a miracle.
True.
Right,
True.
that's really what it's
Yes.
about. So
Yes.
I actually met a friend in Seattle, and he's actually ran a boxing gym.
Mhm.
And we ran into each other, we ended up being friends, and he's a great guy.
Right.
His name's Cappy Coates, and we were talking about adversities and problems and all that kind of stuff, and he said, you know, it's interesting because when we're in a boxing ring, and when boxers, I've never boxed, so I don't understand it as well, but there's something about the kinetic energy, and they say they welcome the punch.
Okay. Yeah.
So that is so contradictory to our lives. Why would you want to welcome the punch? But he's saying that you get that energy, and when you come back, you have that much more force against your opponent.
Wow. Okay.
So I'm thinking, aha, it works in our lives too. So you, instead of trying to push that stuff away and ignore it, you embrace it, and you want to bring it in and let it transform you and transform in you into something that's useful.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's incredible. Because really, that is an anti-concept of our culture
definitely,
today.
yeah.
And, you know, we want to try to find a way to make things easy, to make things work for us. And we're not really a culture today, for the most part. I mean, there are some, but for the most part, we want ease. We want luxury.
Right.
But what you're telling me is that if I really want to understand abundant living and really discover value for life, I've got to lean into the adversity.
Oh, you have to. I mean, there's no way around it really, because if you keep ignoring it, it'll come back some other way.
Yeah.
It'll come back. It'll show up somewhere else. You know, I think of it all the times, and I'm sure others have done this as well. You just ignore stuff, and then eventually it pops up somewhere along the ways. And we found this is very true in business as well, because you're in the business and you have all these problems, and no one wants to talk about problems. Because it could be my fault, it could be my business fault, or whatever. No one really wanted to talk about it. But we had as we went through, we had a process that you could go through, and it was called mistake proofing.
Right.
So you could look at
Right.
the problem, analyze it, see what's going on, fix it, and then it doesn't come back.
Yeah.
But typically, what we've done in our society is we band-aid stuff, forgetting it, ignoring it, or whatever,
Right.
and then moving on.
Push it to the next week.
That's right.
Right.
But if you're lucky, it goes away, but you know how luck works, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
you know, and this process that we talk about in the book will help you identify those issues and you know, mistake proof them, if you will, and make them, you know, go away in
Yeah.
a sense, right? They never really go away, and you know, I used to say a lot of times, I used to say, man, I got to get this out of my life. I got to get this out of my life.
Right.
And I was so wrong in that. You don't want to get things out of your life. You want to embrace them and take them into your life so you can transform them into something good.
That's incredible.
And I'll tell you another thing that's really interesting too. Talk about passion, but let's go back to passion and the fire. To find that fire, you're going to have to go through some adversity to find that fire.
True.
I'm a firm believer that your desire and your fear really is what the adversity is. It's a fear, right? It's setting right on top of your desire. And that's why you can't see it.
Wow. Wow.
Because no one wants to face your fear. I don't care if you're the Dalai Lama. No one wants to face their fear. They got fear and they don't want to face it, right? But if you don't do that, and that's why this step is so important, if you don't do that, you won't find out really what your desire is, your passion is.
Yeah. You know, as you're saying all of this, scriptures that I have studied for nearly 40 years are just screaming at me. You know, for example, what you just said. Fear is right on top of desire. You know, Jeremiah says that your treasure, what's in you, your gifting, your call, your purpose, is hidden in darkness.
Ah,
It's covered up in darkness.
no kidding.
You know?
Wow.
And, you know, you're talking about embracing the adversity. Solomon put it this way, it's the little foxes that spoil the vine. It's usually not the great big things that happen to us that take us out. It's ignoring those little bitty things that we don't want to admit that are there. So yeah. I mean, everything you're sharing has a biblical concept to it, a biblical principle.
Oh, that's powerful.
And, you know, it's incredible. And I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, these concepts that Jeff are sharing with us are life-changing concepts. I very much am a student of self-discovery, not just from self-discovery or what we would call self-helps, but personal development is very, very important in our lives. And we will never reach a place intentionally where God wants us to be by accident. And we have to be able to develop ourselves so that when we do arrive, we can manage life when we're there. So, Jeff, what are some of the other elements?
Yeah, so the next one, and again, these are in sequence, and the next one is the sun.
Okay.
The sun that shines in the sky.
Right.
And it really represents about focus, and you know, it's like lighting your path. It's a focus of lighting your path. So if we go back, we know what our passion is, we know what our talents are and what we need to make it happen, and we're leaning into, as you put it, I like that,
right.
Leaning into the adversity. Now we're going to start doing some stuff, right? We've got to start moving. So we need a path. What is our path? And our path needs to be, you know, lit up, and that's what the sun represents.
Okay.
And this is really, and this step in the process is where we really start making action steps about saying, okay, these are the things I need to do, and you start making action on what you need to do. It's about getting moving. But it's different than our typical moving where we just move. You know, we move because of what society says. We're moving on intention.
Okay.
We have an intention.
Okay.
We're moving on intention because now we know exactly what we're trying to go after.
Right.
Right?
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Yes.
And we find a lot of times that when people get down to this step, and they find that maybe their passion really wasn't what their passion was, or what they thought it was.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
They find out, well,
Yes.
you know, I'm really ready to move, but I really don't want to do this, and that doesn't make any sense. Why would I want to do? I don't. You know.
Yeah.
So it makes you really, you know, question that process.
You know, and I know I have, and I know probably you have, the people that I've spoken to who've come up to me after talking about the concepts of destiny and personal discovery, personal development, and they've said to me, you know, the thousands upon thousands of dollars I spent going to college in order to get a degree in this thing, only to discover years later, that was never my passion to begin with. You know, so many people today have degrees in a field they're not even working in because they're trying to find that passion, trying to find that purpose.
Yeah.
So,
You know, I've spoken at a few universities, and it's interesting. I spoke to a class, and it was a graduating class, and they were a graduating class of engineers. And what's interesting to me, what's really probably really exciting to me, is that the younger generation actually gets this message that which is great because, quite frankly, you and I can influence things, but these people, I mean, you can change the world. I mean,
absolutely.
So after the session, several people rushed the stage and were kind of like you were saying, asking questions.
Yes.
A lot of these kids were saying, well, I really don't want to be an engineer. I really want to do something. I want a purpose in my life. I want a cause or whatever. And I'm thinking, wow, you just spent all this time in university and you don't want to be what you've really done. And I asked them, I said, so why did you go into engineering school? Well, my father was, my grandfather was, my mother was, you know, those types of things. So again, there goes back to choice, right?
Yes.
So they made a choice because they were doing something that they thought would please maybe their parent. You know, I'm not really sure what's in their heart, but they were making a choice, but it really wasn't a choice that they wanted. If they would have known what their passion was, maybe they would have made a different choice.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point of what I'm trying to deliver the message is find out really it is what you want to do. And I tell you another thing about passion that's so exciting to me. You know, and this is the difference between self-help and self-discovery, in my opinion. Self-help is about here, do these 7 things and be like me.
Ah, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think that industry is, I'm not talking about it, but that's what that industry is about, right? And self-discovery is really about finding out what it is that you are.
Yes.
So
yes.
with self-help, I need to call and get you out of bed and make you get up and do those things, right?
Right.
But when you discover your passion and what you want to do with your life, I don't need to call you. Matter of fact, you're going to be calling me out and saying, what more can I do? Give me more stuff, right?
Right, right.
So that's again, that's a choice that we make. If you really make the right choices, I think, and then you build the processes. And when we talked about the sun, that's really where you start building your processes.
Right, okay.
What processes am I going to do? And you really evaluate what things that are adding value to that process.
Mm-hmm.
And we talk a lot about that in business too. We call it value stream mapping. We look at stuff that's really valuable to the process.
Okay.
And you may have things that are going on in your life now that aren't really adding value. To give an example, we were talking earlier about people watching television. You know, the average is like 8 or 9 hours a day or something that people watch TV, which is just, alarming.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're getting value out of that, right, then okay.
Yeah.
But is it adding value to your life? But then if you have a purpose, in a sense, right, you have an intentional purpose with your passion, is it adding to your passion? Well, then if it's not, then maybe you shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or maybe you shouldn't be hanging around some of the people that aren't doing that. I'm not saying to be so focused on your life that you totally wipe everybody out. But I think
Right.
I think you find what I found certainly is that when you look at really what your passion is, it's really about serving.
That's good, Jeff.
It really
That's good.
is.
Talk about that a little bit.
Well,
What does that mean? What do you mean by that?
It's really about serving. It's really about others. It's really not about you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you look at, I'll give you an example about money, and money always comes up. And everyone wants the big car, the big house, and all this stuff. I say, okay, so what is it about that? Well, I could buy a house on the beach, I could drive this really nice car, I could have all these things, and it'd just be so nice. I said, so let's go a little deeper. That's fine, but that's going to wear off, right? I mean, you've bought a new car before, and you've driven it, and
Yeah, the new smell eventually leaves.
it
Yes.
wears off. So what is it really that you're trying to accomplish? And we get down to it, and most people say it's the freedom. It's the freedom that I have, that I can
Okay.
do that if I want to.
Right.
Well, that's different than chasing money.
Yes.
If you're going to
yes.
chase freedom and chase money, those are totally 2 different processes that you're going to do, right? So, and then you look at the passion of it, and you say, well, the freedom that I have, so what is it that I can do to serve others? And most people, we were certainly not brought up that way. Being brought up in the 80s in business, it wasn't ever about service. It was about, going after the money, trying to get the best profit for it.
Right.
So the service is really about what can I do to help other people? And I think people are getting that more now because they're realizing that, all the greed and stuff that has gone on through the world, and I'm not saying that there's any malice in it, it just happened, right? It just the way the processes were designed, maybe not on purpose, just the way they happen. And we miss that element of giving back. And you see a lot of people like at Christmas, especially we just left the Christmas time, people always helping in soup kitchens and stuff. And I guarantee you, if you do that, you'll get a sense of satisfaction by giving.
Yes, absolutely.
And you'll find out that when you find out what your passion is, that's part of your passion is giving.
Yes, yes.
It's giving. I mean, look at.
And I think that's true for all of us.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, it absolutely is.
Yeah.
And that's the thing when you find it. We did a session in Seattle. I was living in Seattle at the time when I finished the book, and we did a session in Ocean Shores in a resort area. It was a house that was on the beach, and one of the ladies, we went through this process. It's a 5-day process that you go through. We went through this process, and we were just on the fire part of it, and she jumped up and said, "I want to hold babies in Africa." And I'm like, wow, talk about a passion.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so let's talk about that. And she said, well, I can't do it. I've got, I got 4 kids, 3 jobs. There's no way that I can do that. Well, if that's really your passion, you find a way to do it.
Sure.
And lo and behold, she did,
Mhm.
right? She found people that would help her to do that. But that's a passion of giving,
Sure, absolutely.
right?
Yes, yes.
So I think once you do find it, and certainly the examples that I've seen, that's what you find out that you do want to give.
Right.
I think that's what we're here for.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Not for self,
Mhm.
but for others.
Right.
But going back to the concept of the 5 elements of Advent 5, I can't really help you until I've helped me.
Oh, yeah.
That's what's important that we need to understand. I'm developing me and discovering me not for me, but for everybody else around me,
Well, you know
so I
what?
can give it away.
It's kind of like praying. I heard a pastor actually in Santa Ana at the beach for the pastor. It said praying is really that the process of praying. He didn't say process, but I'm going to throw that in there.
The process.
That's right. The process of praying. What it spoke to me was, he said, you get the reward, but others get the benefit.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
And that's really what your life should be about. Doesn't mean that you're going to give all your stuff away and live in a gutter somewhere. It doesn't
Right.
what that
No,
means.
no, of course
No,
not.
it
Yeah.
doesn't. And to your point about helping yourself, you got to help yourself first.
Yes.
And I always think about, you and I both fly a lot. I always think about when they say on the intercom, the mask come down, put it on you first before you put it on your child that's next to you.
Right.
That's totally contradictory to what you do. You'd always put it on your own child before you put it on yourself.
Sure.
But if
sure.
you do that, you both may die.
That's
That's
right.
the point.
You pass out, how can you help your child?
So the process in that is that you got to go through that, and they've designed that to save both your lives.
Right.
And it's the same true in our own lives. If
Well-
you can't fix yourself and you don't know really what you want to do, how can you help someone else?
That's true. That's so true. And I'm going to go there. You weren't going to go there, but I'm going to go there. The self-help stuff is an industry that I think really is floundering to some degree, because people are discovering, I can do these things and I may get some measure of a result, but it's not changing me. It's not helping me discover me. And I think that's so very important. And we have elements of theology in various denominational structures in the church. And listen, hear what I'm telling you. I love the church. I'm not anti-church, but I want the church to be the church Jesus died for. And I think in order for us to do that, then we have to realize maybe we're reading Scripture a little different. When Jesus said, when he said that love your neighbor as yourself. Just paraphrasing, put somebody before yourself.
Yeah.
He wasn't saying deny you, deny yourself, take up your cross.
And that's the typical
Yeah,
response.
that's the typical response. Well, I've got to suffer so I can bless somebody else. But no, I don't think that's the concept at all. Jesus was the perfect man, and he's teaching us the process of perfection, so that in my perfection, I can help somebody else find theirs. So the 5 elements you've discovered in your life really work.
They really work.
But
We got one more too.
Yes, you've got the foundation.
The
Go
foundation.
ahead.
Right.
Yeah. Go
The
ahead.
foundation is the rock, and we picked the rock for obvious reasons, and the rock was all about stability, right?
Sure.
And it's really about commitment. And I think what I've certainly have seen is that when you really know what your passion is, and you know what your passion is, you know where your talents are, who you need to help you, and you're welcoming adversity because you got something you can fix it with now.
Sure.
And you're walking down the path, and you want to make sure it's built on something solid, because if it's not, it could all fall over, right?
True.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and a lot of times, the commitment, so when you're committed to your passion, much like I said earlier, I don't need to call and get you out of bed. If you're committed to it, you'll do whatever it takes to make it happen.
True.
And a great example of that, I think, is the FedEx company. Fred Smith is the guy that started FedEx, and he started it, and I don't know the fleet, but he had a fleet of airplanes and trucks and all kinds of stuff. And the first day, he shipped, it's like 7 letters on the first day. And by the way, he wrote the paper, he was a Harvard student, and he wrote a paper, and they all told him he was crazy. All his professors told me it would never work, right?
Right.
It would never work.
Yeah.
So he sent the 7 letters, and 6 of them were to the inner company.
Mhm.
So he sent 1 letter. He said, well, we know how to send 1 letter through the FedEx process, right? And he never accepted failure. And this is one thing that I've learned, a lot of people that I've coached, failure is not even in their vocabulary.
Right.
It's just a result. And that's what it was to him. And when you're on your passion and things aren't really working out and you're committed, it's just a result. And you look at what's another way I can get around it. Just like Fred Smith with FedEx, he was committed to making that happen.
Yes.
And
yes.
we don't have to talk about what's happened today, because it worked.
Yeah. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It's
yes.
committed, but everybody was against him. And you'll find that too when you do your passionate, especially, I remember when I quit my day job, if you will. I had a really good job, and everyone's like, well, you're quitting your job to be a consultant? You're crazy? This is great. Why would you do that, Family, it just wasn't the right thing to do. And what you'll find a lot of times, and I think this is probably true, a lot of times in the message of in God as well, right?
Right.
You have to surrender to be free. I mean, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't make logical sense. But
Right.
we know it's true, right?
The kingdom's backwards.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And it's the same with this. This doesn't make any sense. Everyone's telling you not to do it, right? But it's your passion, and you know it's your passion, but you really got to know it's your passion, because sometimes you can go down the wrong road.
True.
Right? Which is fine, because again, you accept that adversity and you just learn it as a lesson. You say, okay, what can I do differently this time?
Yes.
Or maybe my passion really wasn't what I was going.
Very true, very true. So the rock is the foundation
Yes.
that all of the other elements have to stand on, because there has to be real commitment here.
Right.
You can't just, it's like, like we used to say, I'll try Jesus. Well, you don't try him.
Mm-hmm.
He is or he isn't. And with these elements, as you apply them and work them, they'll work for you.
Well, it's a process, and it's not like a diet.
Right, okay.
If you really look at diets, if you really want to lose weight and get healthy, you just don't do a diet. You change your lifestyle.
That's good.
Right?
Yeah,
And it's the
yes.
same with this. If you
Yes.
really want to do your passion, and you're really passionate about what you're trying to accomplish, you change your lifestyle.
Yes.
You
Yes.
change the pattern, you change your behavior, you change the way you look at things, you change the way you measure things, all
Yes.
those things.
Yes.
Right?
So it's a self-evolving process, if I'm understanding you, because we talk about adversity, leaning into it. Anytime you change anything, you create adversity,
Oh, yeah.
because
Nobody likes change.
nobody likes change.
Yeah.
So okay, with all of this that you've talked about regarding the elements, how do you do it?
Mhm.
Talk to me about the other concept that you have in the book called space.
Oh, space. Oh, good one. I actually forgot about that. Space is a good one. I'm not even sure where it came from, actually, but it was born from a frustration in the corporate world. And we would go to meetings, and anybody that's ever worked for a corporation, I'm sure you've gone to meetings, right? Gone to meetings, and you end up walking out of the meetings thinking, what just happened? What am I supposed to do?
Right.
That happened a lot. So we finally said, okay, we need to get focused on this.
Right.
So I'm going to use that as an example to try to give you an idea. So SPACE is an acronym, and the S stands for setting your intention,
Mhm.
right? So what's your intention to have this meeting?
Mhm.
Just for example, something simple. Well, my intention is to do this, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so what's your purpose? Which is the P in SPACE. What is your purpose? After you know what your intention is, what's your purpose? What are you going to do with it,
Mhm.
right? And then the next one is A, which is an agenda. And this was typically the thing that was always missing in meetings. No one really had an agenda of what we needed to accomplish. And when we get into the meetings, and we'd be talking about something that we needed an engineer or some kind of some expertise, and they weren't in the meeting.
Okay.
Because we didn't have an agenda.
Makes it a little difficult
Right.
to
Talk about it.
make it happen,
Right.
doesn't it? Yeah.
Right. And as you guys think about this, think about it in your own life, how this is really true in your own life. And then it was about, okay, so how are we going to communicate? If we have a meeting, well, first of all, how am I going to get everybody to the meeting? We think about, well, I'm going to send emails, or I'm going to do whatever. And then the next one is, after it's done, how are we going to communicate the success of it? Or
Right.
what we're trying to accomplish?
Right.
And then have expectations. So, space, expectations. And what do you expect after you have this hour meeting? What are you going to walk away with? I always say, what am I going to walk away with for this meeting, right?
Sure.
Okay? So you can see where that would be valuable in business world, but let's talk about it in the personal world too, right? So now that you know what your passion is,
Mhm.
right? And you know you got a process that you're walking through, and you got a nice lit path that you're doing, and you're really committed to do it. So you're getting ready to move, so you're going to do something that's in that environment to execute. You're going to
True.
execute now, right?
True, right.
So what's my intention? What is it that I'm trying to execute in that intention, right? So what this is really forcing you to do is sit down and really think about it. Instead of, again, we live in a fast-paced society, and everyone's going to be moving. And the multitasking, by the way, don't do that, because the multitasking just totally distracts you from what you're trying to accomplish.
Okay.
So throw that out the door.
Okay.
You know?
But now that's an in concept right now. Being able to multitask.
Yeah. Well, I think
touch on that just a little bit.
I think it all generated from, trying to be lean, right? And that's one of the things that we taught in our consulting business was lean manufacturing, how to do things better, quicker, faster, better. And certainly after World War II and we bombed Japan, Japan really picked up this concept at Toyota and really perfected it. And it's all about, removing the waste, right? And how can we remove the waste? And removing the waste is like, back in the old days, you'd have, if you were a boss, you might have 2 secretaries and 4 or 5 people that help you do what you do. Today, in the environment, you don't. I mean, a lot of CEOs don't have any of that stuff. They do all this stuff themselves. So you're doing all this stuff, multitasking, and what it does, it distracts you from really what you're supposed to be focusing on.
Okay.
Right? For using a CEO as an example, the CEO really shouldn't be worrying about, what's going on in the operations, and I mean, he has people to do that kind of stuff.
Sure.
His job is to sell the company and to look for, looking into the future to try to grow the company. This is a typical, I'm not saying all CEOs their jobs are that way, but that's what they should be doing. But if they're multitasking, they don't have the time to sit around and ponder and think about what we're trying to do and drive this company and change it, because in our world, as we mentioned earlier, it's always constantly changing.
Absolutely.
Right, so
Absolutely.
the job, to me, the job of the CEO is to be looking at that change and how can we improve ourselves and reinvent ourselves, right, to be better in the marketplace.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that's the big part about that.
Excellent. Let me say this to pastors. Everything Jeff is sharing with us tonight is applicable to your ministry. It really is. So many pastors that deal with burnout today because they pastor a small church and they are so multitask demanded. I don't know a better word to use there, but they're placed in this posture where they have to wear all these various hats. Find somebody to delegate something to. And, you may say, well, I just don't have any people. Well, you do, but when you help them discover who they are and help them discover their passion, you then have the capacity to take their passion and use it for the purposes of God. Real development, real discipleship in the church is not about building a ministry where you have a vision and you're constantly having to mine people out of the church to help you fulfill your thing. The real mining, the real treasure is finding those people who are with you in your life that you're pastoring and teach them how to develop their own understanding and their passion and what they're called to be and who they're called to be. And using Jeff's concept, the Advent 5 process, is a phenomenal process. It really will help us. And everything, ladies and gentlemen, as Jeff has been sharing, has to be intentional. Completely intentional. We don't get places usually by accident. We're led by God. But God leads us by intention. Most of the time, if not all of the time. You have to know where you're going. I like what Dr. Miles Monroe said many years ago. He said, if you're in a ship out in the ocean and you don't have a course charted, when you set up your sails, any wind becomes the right wind. We can't live that way. We have to live by intention. And knowing who we are, discovering the real us, and celebrating and honoring who we are makes a tremendous difference. We have just a few minutes left, and if you would like to ask Jeff questions, just IM us here, and we'll be more than glad to try to answer questions for you. And as you're in the process of doing that, I want to remind you about the book, Discovering the Unseen, by Jeff. And it will bless you immensely. It'll help you. It really is a training tool to make you become the fullness of what God intended you to be. It really will help you move into a new level in your life and help you really begin to grasp the passion that you may have already discovered. It's a phenomenal book. It's a short read. 129 pages.
Yeah.
You can read it. We guys, we like a small book. We just want to get in and get out. That's just kind of the way we are as men. But it's a quick read, full of tremendous treasure and rich content. If you would like to have this book, and you can get it in a lot of the bookstores, but we're going to offer you a tremendous deal tonight. And listen, let me say this to you. We're not trying to sell a book. We're trying to help you. This is not about selling. But if you can send us a gift of $15 or more, you can get the book. If you go to a bookstore, you're going to pay a considerable larger sum than that. And so if you would like the book, if you would like to request the book, send us a check to the Institute for Biblical Leadership at 1794 County Road 527, Baird, Texas 79504. And we will do our best to get the book to you as quickly as we possibly can, because as I said, I'm excited about this because it's going to help transform your life and take you to the next level. Jesus said in John 10:10, the thief has come to kill, steal, and destroy, but I've come that you might have life and have it more abundantly. It's not about the quantity of life that we live. It's about the quality of life. Jesus came to give us a quality of life. Do we have any questions that have come up? And well, here's one that someone has asked. Thank you for responding. Here's the question. Leaning into adversity, wind contains a tremendous amount of energy. It has the power to destroy. Recent tornadoes, such as we just had in East Texas, in Dallas just a few weeks ago. It can also provide power for a small town to function. We have the ability to choose to harness the power of adversity or to allow the adversity to destroy us. It's the difference between being a victim or a victor. Right. Hey, thank you for that comment. Do you want to touch on that, Jeff, and respond to that?
I think that's wonderful, because thank you for that. You know, you put it very well. You said choose to harness the power, right? You know, if you really think about the wind, the same wind that blows you down, if you lean into it, will lift you up.
Ah, that's good.
I mean, yes, it really is. So you're right. And it's the same with all the elements. Actually, they all have an element to destroy if they're not, used properly. Right?
Very true.
Right.
Very true.
Yeah, that's really good. I like that.
So it really is about choices.
Right. And if you're not a victim, right, and you're a victor, you're probably going to tend to be more of a giver, right?
Right.
A server than you are when you're a victim, because you're in a totally different place. To me, being a victim, you're in the dark.
Right.
Right.
You always need.
Right. And it's always self-centered. And again, I'm not picking on people that are victims. That's just the way it is. And the way to get out of that is really to find out what you need to do with your life, and then you become a victor.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Find that passion.
We don't yet realize, most of us, what our potential is, and very few of us realize how incredible we really are.
Yeah, that's
the incredibility of how God has created us, and I've said it for years, and I read it in your book.
Oh.
We are a human having a spiritual experience.
Oh yeah. A lot of people don't get that, because that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Or did you say we're a spirit being having a human experience?
Yeah, we're having a human experience.
Yeah, we're having a human experience.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's very true.
Yeah.
But most of us don't see ourselves in the dignity and the quality of how God created us.
Well, that's the whole thing about your desire and your passion. It's because it's already inside you. And this is a really cool thing about this, by the way. If you guys do embark on this journey, and it is a journey, by the way, you embark on it, you already have everything you need.
Yes.
You already have it.
Yes.
If God's given you the dreams and the passions and the desires that you have, that if they're coming from your heart, I mean, you can have bad desires, obviously.
Sure.
But they're coming from your heart, He wants you to fulfill them. And He's going to give you, He's already given you the stuff to fulfill them. That's why it's like, when you finally, and a lot of people, when they finally figure out, they're like, oh, man, this is it. And then it's all of a sudden, it's easy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's easy. Stuff starts happening to you. It's not by any means magic. It was just already there. You just couldn't see it. That's why we said, look for the unseen.
Yes.
It's already there.
Yes. Yeah.
You got to go inside and find it.
Absolutely. Solomon put it this way in Ecclesiastes. eternity is in your heart.
No.
We know all things. Everything we need to know about us, God has already deposited within us.
Right.
You know, we just now need to mine it out and discover it. We have just a couple of minutes. We may go over just a tad. But here's another question. Yeah. Suppose someone has a dream for something that they never fulfill. For example, a tone-deaf person who wants to be a rock star. When do you know it's time to give up on a dream? That is, that's a challenging question. Jeff,
you're going to go to me?
Yeah, you're the guest. I'm going to lay this one on you.
Well, you know, you have to look at, and I had the opportunity to spend a few years with Mr. Ziglar, right? Zig Ziglar. And he was always telling me that I need to be a good finder, right? You know, I'll never forget, we were in an airport one time and he was visiting with some people, and I'm like, you know, we need to get going because, you know, we're going to miss the plane. He goes, oh, that's okay, we'll get the next one, right? So I'm at the counter trying to get the next ticket, and the airline people were being very difficult, you know, and I'm getting frustrated, and he just patted me and said, Jeff, you need to be a good finder. Find the good in this. You know, we're going to be down for a while. We'll have some time to do some other things.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
And it's the same thing with your question about being tone deaf. It just doesn't mean you have to be a rock star and you're going to sing. You can still be involved in the business to do it.
That's good.
You could be
That's
involved
good.
in doing something
Yeah.
about it. If your passion is to sing, you know, everything's possible with God. Maybe something will happen and you'll get your voice back. You know,
Sure.
I don't know, but unless you make the choice, and we talk about choices, unless you make that choice and start walking down that path, you're never going to know, right? And you ask the question about when do I give up? You know, if it's really your passion and you're really committed about it, I think, you know, I certainly can't tell you because I don't know your heart, but you'll know when it's time to give up if it's not really working for you.
Right.
But this is the cool part about going through those 5 steps, and you know, the fire, the water, the wind, the sun, and the rock. If you go, and those are on purpose. If you go through those, I think you'll find that they will help you to, you know, define exactly what that. It'll help you discern whether you're on the right path.
That's good. Very, very good. Hey, listen, if you'd like to connect with Jeff, maybe later on you want to get the book and you're not in a position to get it through the Institute for Biblical Leadership. We'll talk to you more about it in just a moment as we close. But you'd like to connect with Jeff. Jeff's website is, of course, World Wide Web, www.tjwagoner, WAGONER.com. I'll give it to you again, tjwagoner.com. You may need Jeff to come and maybe talk to your group, talk to your church, talk to your business, help you help your clients or your lay people, or maybe even your employees learn how to discover their full potential. So how do we discover the unseen, the book? Either us or Jeff's website, www.tjwagoner.com, or send your $15 to the Institute for Biblical Leadership. Just make it simple. Just write IBL 1794 County Road 527, Baird, Texas 79504. Once again, the Institute for Biblical Leadership, 1794 County Road 527, Baird, Texas 79504. Also, we have some things coming up that I quickly want to share with you about. We will begin in February Leading in Life Power Moments. I'm just going to take my cell phone wherever I am, and I'm going to go live on Periscope, and I'm going to share for 3 to 5 minutes just 1 or 2 PowerPoints that will help you develop yourself, help you discover yourself. And you'll discover that I'm hoping that it will help you as you give application to it. Also, we are going to be gathering together February 5th. That's a Friday evening in Waco, Texas for our annual Summit of Champions at 7 p.m. and we'll go through Saturday morning on February 6th, starting at 9 a.m. Hey, we'd love to have you come be a part of this and join our Dominion International family. Just come and we'd love to, I'd love to shake your hand, hug your neck, meet you, get to know you, find out who you are. It's going to be located at Church on the Rock in Belmead, Texas, 1201 Air Base Road, Belmead. Belmead is a suburb of Waco. So, you know, if you're in Austin, if you're in Houston, even here in Abilene, the Dallas Metroplex area, it's not that far of a drive. Please come and join us, and you're going to be blessed. We're going to have a great time. I'm going to be sharing a word on what God is doing in 2016. A powerful, powerful word. And we'll talk to you soon about the accommodations of where you can get your hotel and all of that. Once again, let me share with you, discover the unseen. Discover the unseen.
He's a great, I'll take you on the road.
1794 County Road 527, Baird, Texas, for a $15 or more gift. Listen, follow us on Twitter and Periscope at IBL /central. Or connect with me on Facebook.com /IBLcentral.net, or visit us at our website at www.iblcentral.net. And listen, I want you to know something. People that I walk with know this very, very well, but if you're new to our program, I want you to hear what I'm telling you. You are unique, you're incredible, you're totally incomparable, and you're passionately loved. See you next time on Leading in Life. God bless.